All right. Good morning, afternoon, evening. I know it's like 2:10 p.m. for me right now, but whether you're joining live or listening to the audio, I'm excited for this week. Crawl Walk Run episode 3 actually. So this week I really wanted to focus on setting a good foundation for ourselves when it comes to actually, working on developing our technical profiles and kind of just building ourselves up as software engineers. And so the thing that I thought would be really good to focus on today is how do we focus on, highlighting our portfolios and also some of the tools that we can use, and then also some of the tips for managing our own learning path and learning goals because everybody has a different strategies for it. So there's a few buckets I think that you might fall into when it comes to your learning path or your learning goals and how you can accomplish those things as well. So those are the two main things I want to talk about today. So again, welcome back to anybody who is joining us live. I really appreciate everybody sticking in. It's the beginning of springtime now, so there was a lot of grass cutting and weed whackers and all kind of stuff. So hopefully that I don't have to worry about any of that right now while we are recording. But yeah, so I just want to get into it today. So I want to take a step back and say for episode 1, we talked a lot about different tips that developers could apply to their careers, whether you are just getting started or if you are trying to, really advance your career right now. And I have been basing a lot of this on, I think that I'm the type of person where I don't just want to talk about what we should do, but I want to show what we should do as well, demonstrating, my advice through my actions. So, with that being said, some of the tips that I think there's a lot of things that stood out from the first episode, but some of the things that will kind of circle back to today are making sure you have a focus, um, understanding your learning path or your learning style, building out your portfolio and networking. And I'm going to talk about why I think a lot of those things are important, but also how I am doing that right now, and how if you are somebody that wants to, have more community involvement and kind of, get involved with me or other people that I work with, as far as like working on your own goals, that's something that you can do as well. So I'm going to talk about that at the end, what challenge we're doing for May. So that was episode 1, those tips. And those are things that these are things that I have applied to my career in the past, but these are also things that I am working on applying as I'm moving forward. Because again, for me, I have been working as a software engineer for the past, I don't know. I think I technically started learning how to code about 8 years ago. Um, and I went from taking some part-time classes, different workshops, learning stuff online, moving into let's see, I went from that to freelancing to build out my portfolio and build out my experience. And then I wanted to really expand out on my expertise, and I felt like discipline was not a strong suit of mine at the time. Like I had so many things going on that I was not really dedicating the time that I needed to the new things that I was trying to learn. So that was my inspiration for actually going and taking a coding boot camp, and also taking a coding boot camp even though I wasn't a new programmer, I wasn't the typical boot camp student at the time. And so, yeah, I used a lot of these strategies back then. And now I'm still trying to apply that to my life now as I am taking my step into AI and machine learning. So, hopefully, you will realize that I'm not just talking out the side of my neck. This is stuff that I really do and really live, and can't always be growing in, and always getting better in. But I do think that it's important to just talk about these things, especially since I don't usually get to talk about a lot of these things as an instructor. So now episode 2 is a little different because I didn't do episode 2 live. I actually just recorded it and I'm going to publish that out. But just because this is technically episode 3, what I really focused on in episode 2 was talking about accountability, right? And so just to recap on what accountability means to me, I already mentioned like when I wanted to actually become a full stack software engineer and feel more, um, I guess, feel more like qualified, feel like I had more of a firm foundation, and transition from that freelancing lifestyle that I was in to actually going ahead and, um, how do I want to put it? I went from freelancing to basically working as a full-time software engineer. And one of the things that I really applied to, my strategy was that when I realized I was not spending the time that I needed to learn, I was trying to learn Java at the time, I think. And I was not putting in that time because by the time I did everything else in my day, realistically, I never actually, put time into the courses that I was looking into. So for me, the accountability factor was, hey, you know what? I need to go and sit in somebody's face every day. I need to have somebody that's going to be looking for me to actually, show up, do the work, follow through, follow up with me. And I also felt like it would be important for me to, I don't want to put it, um, I guess that's pretty much it. There's more I could go into, but the accountability side, for me, I know myself, right? I know that if I have a lot of other things going on, a lot of my goals can fall to the sidelines. And I was like no longer at a point where I was okay with that. And so I went to take a boot camp specifically for those reasons. There was a lot of other things I could have done at the time, but I just didn't feel like that was going to work out. But that was what would work out best for me. So now at this point in time, the next thing that I want to say as we kind of branch off from there is how you can start building and reviving your portfolio. So, for me, yeah, I need to revive my portfolio right now because it's pretty, I don't want to say it. It's like it's pretty dorm it's pretty stagnant, I'll just put myself out there. But that's something I can do better at. And also, again, if I know that I want to get into AI and machine learning, not only do I need to build things, but I want to show how I'm building my expertise over time as well. I want to demonstrate that I have the ability to to do these things. And so there is a few things that I can talk about, but again, I want to give y'all an example, right? So for me, and there's some people I want to say hi to. Hey, In. Hey, Mirza. Welcome in. Um, some things that I want to make sure that, I focus on, I kind of want to mirror something I did in the past. So when I first started out as a programmer, learning about development, I was taking a part-time, like, workshop, and I took every single exercise seriously in that workshop, right? So I didn't just sit there, listen, walk away, and then come back to the next class. First of all, I showed up for every class. Second of all, even the little mini labs and different smaller exercises that we did, I did every single one of those. And so that was the beginning of my portfolio. So, at the end of the class, we had to build a website, and what I did was, my personal site was my portfolio. So not only did I build out my entire personal site, and deploy it and host it and everything. But when I had like my individual portfolio page, I had all these smaller exercises that I had did. So for example, um here's how I made a specific animation using CSS, right? Those very tiny bite-sized chunks. It wasn't all these fully formed projects, but again, I wanted to show what I could do at the time. So that is something that you can definitely focus on and definitely do. Don't just think about it from the perspective of, oh, it has to be these big giant things that we're doing. No, that's not necessarily true. Um, when you have those small labs and small exercises in the beginning, that can be your portfolio. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but I just want people, I want to kind of frame that thought process. And then again, like I said, at that time, my personal site was my portfolio. So it was very important to me that I actually had built up my website from the ground up, because that was really how I was showcasing my skills overall back then. And that was great to an extent, but I want to also highlight the fact that, especially as developers, I feel like a lot of times we get stuck on having to do everything ourselves from scratch, from the ground up, and it can get to a point where it's actually counterproductive. Okay. So, yes, it might make sense for you to build your own personal site from the ground up, but it's not the most manageable overall. And what I would say is, instead of thinking about the idea that you necessarily have to build your own site from the ground up, think about what is it that you're trying to highlight. Okay. So, for example, I was a front end developer at the time, and so when I built my website from the ground up, obviously it made sense for me at the time. My website was my portfolio. I wanted people to know I can build a website from the ground up. Okay, cool. But at this point in my career, that's not important to me. Was first of all, I'm not even trying to like highlight web development in particular. And second of all, I don't care as much about the specific individual demos. What I want to showcase more is my thought process, my expertise, how I think about things. So I want to focus more on content, right? So for me, it makes more sense to work with some type of CMS system or some type of blogging platform, so that it can be easier for me to publish blogs, articles, highlight different videos and different tech talks and things that I do, or, to again, I can showcase a lot of my technical expertise through GitHub as well. So that's another thing that you can consider when it comes to creating your actual portfolio itself. And so when you have decided how you want to approach your portfolio, whether it's maybe you want to use an existing tool or you want to build yours from the ground up, the other thing I want to really focus on, I think, today, as far as the portfolio, is GitHub. Um, GitHub is not the only place that you can host your code, but I think most people that I have ever experienced in the past almost 10 years that I've been in the industry has always highlighted, focused on, looked towards GitHub in order to see how developers are growing and advancing in their careers, what type of technical things they are doing. Um, and so that's what I'm going to focus on. I think GitLab is another example. There's other tools out there, but GitHub is definitely out in front, I would say, and one of the most recognizable. So I usually teach Git and GitHub, and that is another thing that I think I mentioned before. I'm like very grateful that back when I first started learning how to code, I started learning GitHub very early on, and that helped me tremendously over time. So that's another reason why I want to start here with our GitHub. I always start with GitHub for the most part when I start with my students. So GitHub is your portfolio. Let me just put that out there. Like, GitHub is your portfolio. So yes, you can build a personal site, you can do all these other things, but when it comes to, how you want to kind of show off and show your technical skills, think about GitHub from the very beginning. Um you have different ways that you can organize your profile and kind of highlight what you want people to know. And then you have other tools that GitHub makes available to you. And for anybody that is watching the video of this or watching live, I am going to show some of these features right now. But I will have all of this up on on YouTube as well, youtube.com/@ MetaDevGirl. And if you want to see more of this, if you're just listening to the audio, you can definitely check that out as well. But I'm still going to talk through all of these different aspects. So, um, on your GitHub profile, first of all, if you haven't set one up, you definitely want to have a GitHub profile. You should have GitHub set up. And if you have not used it before, that would be something that you definitely want to kind of get upskilled on. And I do teach classes like that. So if it's helpful for anyone, I can maybe offer a new class. The last time I taught GitHub was with Girl Develop It back in March. But yeah, so I'm just going to do high level stuff today. So first and foremost, you have your portfolio. Now, GitHub is more on the social side of things. So there's the portfolio, your profile picture, your handle, and now they are doing more to build out feeds and following friends and things like that. But GitHub has a lot of different tools and resources that I think a lot of people don't realize when you first come here. So yes, you can go ahead and, set up your profile, make sure you have a picture. The thing I just did recently is I made all of my pictures the same across everything. If you go to my Twitch, if you go to my YouTube, if you go to my LinkedIn, if you go to my Facebook, even my personal Facebook page, everything uses the same profile picture now. And for me, I'm trying to develop that consistency. So, when you saw me one place, you see me somewhere else. And again, if you're trying to grow your profile as a developer and your kind of reputation, especially in this virtual world where it's like it's not the same as it was back when I would go to meetups and people would be used to seeing you in person, right? Um, so I'm just trying to make it consistent and easy because I already know, first of all, I change my hair like every every 2 days. My hair is a new color, right? So I just try to make it as easy as possible for people to know, yes, this is the same person. So, you have your profile, you have a very short bio that you can use, and you can actually highlight any organizations that you're attached to through GitHub. If that's something, you can post your social links. Like for me, I have my website, I have an email address you can contact me at, I have my Twitter, and I have my Twitch as well. So those are the basics, but those have been there for a long time. Now, another feature that has always typically, been a part of GitHub as far as I can remember is we have had pins for a long time. So pins are the different parts of the different repositories or projects in your um, account that you want to highlight. So think about this. When someone's going to come to your GitHub page, you don't want them guessing at what they should look at. For me, I have had GitHub since 2014. Literally learned it back when I was first learning how to code. And I don't want people seeing like coming here and trying to figure out I have 185 repositories. Some are forks, some are like random things I started, some are just demos I did for teaching. So not everything is important for people to see when I'm trying to get a job. Um, so pins are a way that you can really just go ahead and highlight specific parts of your or specific projects or repositories that you really want to be showcased. So I have pins that are here. I don't think I've necessarily updated these very much in a while, but they're pretty easy. And for me, I think there's some things on mine that I don't necessarily need up anymore. And you can have up to 6 pins. So, you can easily check off any of the pins that you want. And then let's see, I'm just going to replace one. So, right now I did something about, I'm going to highlight Girl Develop It tips server because that's something I'm working on right now. And I'm going to highlight, um, I'll get rid of this one, I think, and I'll highlight this one. So I can highlight the repositories that I have access to from other organizations, and I can highlight repositories that are, my own personal repositories that I own. So now whenever somebody comes to my profile, it's really easy for them to see the like top 6 things that I pinned and focus on those when they want to see more about me, my coding style, what kind of projects I'm working on, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the more obvious features. Now, some cool things that has been added to GitHub over the years, especially very recently. The first one is more recent, and I don't think as many people have updated this just yet. But there is a new feature in GitHub. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, but there's a feature in GitHub where you can actually have a README file displayed directly on the landing page for your profile. And to me, like, I am so happy about this because, again, in the past, we got to have this like tweet sized bio, and we got to have pins, but it wasn't a lot of personalizing when it came to your profile. Like on LinkedIn, I can put my like about, like, they give you that area that you can do your bio or your description, so you can talk a little bit more about yourself, what your goals are and things like that. Now we have this readme option. So the way this works is when you go to GitHub, um you create a repository with exactly the same name as your username for GitHub. So my username is Jessica. So the first, on the left hand side, whenever you look at the URL on the repository, you'll see your username, and then you'll see the repository name. So for me, my username is Jessica. So I see Jessica /Jessica. This is a special repository. If you make a repository with exactly the same name as your username, nothing else, just mirror, your username as your repository name, and then you put a readme.md file or a markdown file inside of that repository, then that markdown file is going to automatically be rendered on your profile for GitHub now. So this is a new feature that I think a lot of people should be using. And again, this is something I can make a demo of and post. I can post like a video of this on YouTube, but I just want people to know that this is here. So now this is where I'm trying to let people know, hey, if you find my page and I want you to know what kind of things I'm working on. I want you to know what kind of things I'm interested in. I also want you to know, like, hey, here's things that you could possibly help me with, because like I am running these different podcasts, right? So I would love to have guests on my podcast. I would love to help people with open source curriculum, things like that. So that's one good area that is really easy to set up. Even if you don't know much about coding, you can make a markdown file. And again, I think I'm going to record a tutorial for that. And then after the fact, I'll link those in the descriptions for the different VODs. And I'll have that on YouTube. So you can follow through with those videos if you need to know more about how to set that up. But again, as long as you set up a repository that has the exact same name as your GitHub profile, set a readme.md file inside of that repository, that file will be rendered on your profile page. So one small win to just kind of make your profile a lot more personal and really tell people what should they care about when it comes to you. Now, the other thing I want to talk about before I move on to the learning path and the learning goals is that some people know about this and some people don't. You have something called GitHub Pages as a part of your account. And with GitHub Pages, basically, different static websites, and they're kind of some templated websites can actually be hosted automatically through GitHub without very much work at all. All you have to do is enable GitHub Pages on there. So if you've never heard of GitHub Pages before, definitely look into GitHub Pages. So you might be able to do that for specific projects, especially if you are a web developer, front-end developer. But another good thing about GitHub Pages is that you have another special repository that you have access to with your GitHub account. So this repository, You would name your repository your username dot github.io. Okay. So for me, again, my username is Jessica. So I have a repository called jessica.github.io. And again, this is another special repository because what this will do is anything inside of this repository will be available through GitHub pages. It will be able, you'll have your own personal site. So I can literally go to sika.github.io, and right now is not very much going on there, but it is rendering the files that I have in that repository. So this is more of like if you want to go ahead and get your personal site started, you don't want to do too much as far as coming up with your own hosting and things like that. You can very easily have your use your GitHub profile or your GitHub personal domain. And they do have the ability to do custom domains and things like that as well. So if I wanted to do like I have metadevgirl.com. For a while, metadevgirl was actually tied to this repository, but I kind of changed that up. So yeah, right now mine's is really basic. It just has my name and my picture because I just showed how to set this back up for a again a Git and GitHub workshop that I was doing back in March. So I'll probably redo this one more time just for a video again so I can kind of demonstrate how you set these up. So I actually deleted my old one just just for demonstration purposes, but yeah. So those are two really good features that you have in GitHub. So not only are you having your repositories and highlighting your code, but you're also customizing out your profile a lot more, letting people know exactly what you do, what you're all about. And then in addition to that, you are also having a the ability to host a personal site. On the github.io domain or customizing your domain if you would like. So, those are definitely some tools that you can think about and use as a part of this process. And now that I talked a little bit about that, another thing that I want to get into before we wrap up for today is just going to be thinking about your learning path or your learning goals. Okay. So, how do I want to put it? There is a lot of different options that we have when it comes to how we want to learn, what we want to learn, and the strategies that we want to take. So, in episode one, the first thing that I talked about is focusing, right? And I have been guilty of this so many times. It's like you want to learn all the things, you want to do all the things, but you end up spreading yourself way too thin. So, I'm going to reiterate that you want to have a focus. So, pick a topic that you're trying to learn, pick a language, pick a tool, right? So, I am learning front end development and I'm going to do HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, that is one area of focus. Um, right now, for me, I'm focusing on AI and machine learning. And although I want to learn a lot of high level topics, I have narrowed in on I guess you could say, subfield, which is I am particularly interested in natural language processing and have been for many years. So even though there's a lot of other things I could do within AI and focus on, I'm trying to start in a specific area and, not give myself too many things to focus on. I might kind of, do a little bit of reading here and there just to understand what the different fields are. But because I am really trying to get my foundation sturdy, I'm not going to try to build a million different projects in all types of different niches because that is an easy way to, um, I would say, like kind of stagnate the growth that I'm trying to make right now. So you have your topic, but I think learning style is another thing that I talked about in episode one, and learning style is really, really key. So, again, everybody is different. Everybody's level of self management is different. Everybody's level of discipline is different. And everybody's like motivators can be different as well. So, there is a few different buckets I think most of the learning kind of falls in nowadays. So, you have your like a platform or a program or some type of outline that you want to follow, no matter what the case is, right? So you should pick a platform or a program to follow. Or if you are experienced, then you know a little bit more about your own learning style and how to guide your learning journey, right? A lot of experienced software engineers, we have to learn. That's a part of our career. That's a part of our our skills over time. So after a while, you kind of get the hang of how you learn something new, but I don't really recommend trying to create your own learning path from scratch if you are not really experienced in the field already, because it's so many things to learn. It can be overwhelming, and if you don't already have something that you kind of outlined for yourself, you can end up spinning your wheels on trying to figure out what to learn, and never even get to it, or you can get distracted a lot. So again, picking a platform like a learning platform or picking a program to follow, I think those are the most strategic ways you can go. Uh, and um, when I think about like picking platforms or programs, you have like the live classes or boot camps, and then you have learn as you go curriculum, is kind of how I'm calling it. And then the third option again is more of a freestyle, which I'll talk about all of them, but I don't recommend freestyling for most people. So I think there's some pros to live classes and boot camps. The main thing that I think is great about them is, of course, you do have the structured curriculum, right? But the best thing about these and what I think is a standout for that category is if you need to have somebody to ask questions to, if you need to, have a group of people that you're working alongside throughout your journey, this is where live classes and boot camps and things really stand out, right? Because it's one thing to read through articles and go through, self-guided curriculum online, but as soon as you have a question about something or something doesn't make sense, if you don't have a community around you, mentorship around you, then you can end up, struggling just because you don't have a source to go to help you kind of demystify the issues that you will run into. And there's nothing wrong with being confused sometimes and running into issues because it's just natural. Um, but again, trying to do coding and learn coding in isolation can be very challenging, especially if you are starting out or you're trying to grow and advance and you don't have, you know, any resources as far as mentorship and communities and things like that. So if you go the route of live classes and boot camps, then that is a pro in that area. So you can definitely pick that option. Um, and I think I should do a whole nother episode about boot camps and how to pick out boot camps because I have experience with teaching and graduating from a boot camp, and it has hurt me a lot to hear that over the years there has been a lot of like predatory programs, I would say, that have not really supported the students and have not really given students what they needed out of the program, but definitely took their money. So yeah, if that's interesting to anybody, just let me know, comments or, DMs or whatever, however you can reach me, Discord. If you want to hear me talk about more about boot camps and how to pick out a boot camp, how to evaluate boot camps, I will be happy to do that. Um, and for me, Girl Develop It is a nonprofit that I've been involved with for a very long time. So I usually teach classes. Not only do I teach for some boot camp programs right now, I also teach with Girl Develop It. So um, in those cases, again, you have an instructor, you have classmates and things like that. So that community aspect is really the standout. Now, the second category was, like I said, learn as you go curriculum or self-guided curriculum or something like that. So this is more of pick a class online and follow it. Pick a fully built out guide online and follow it. So you have things like Udacity, Udemy, Coursera, Free Code Camp. I'll have to throw Free Code Camp out there. These are all resources that you have online if you want to just look at a pre-made curriculum and just follow the curriculum. That's the main thing I recommend for most people, especially depending on how much money you might have to pay or if you even want to pay. And how much you're trying to learn. So you can do small classes, like individual classes just for different topics, or you can do a longer program um, usually like Udacity or Coursera. You can pick an individual class or you can do like a specialization or a certification or something like that. That'll be a series of classes that kind of builds on each other. So you have those options. And then Udemy, I know a lot of people use Udemy. Some people like it, some people don't. I can't I can't complain about it overall because I think that the um what do I want to say? With Udemy, it's like the ratings and the feedback speaks for itself. So you don't, especially with software, it's like you don't really have to guess too hard about what class to take. A lot of the different areas, the common areas that you're trying to learn in, usually already have like very popular classes with 4 and 5 star ratings from thousands of people. And also with Udemy, if you aren't familiar, you hardly ever have to pay full price for a class on Udemy. So that's something to be aware of if you've never used Udemy before. Just know that usually there's sales, like every week there's a sale. File sign up or get their newsletter. They're gonna tell you about a sale. I have the app on my phone. They literally like send me notifications like, hey, another sale. So then in that case, you probably pay less than $20 for a class that you want to take. So those are good options for sure. And then like I said, with the freestyling, oh, I guess I should say pros and cons of that method. So definitely a big pro to that method is usually more cost effective. Um, if you're paying at all, right? Like Free Code Camp is an amazing resource. You can learn so many things within web development. They even have some AI materials and things like that. Um, and it's all free. It's self-guided, so it's at your own pace. So if you have a very busy lifestyle, it's something that you can fit around your own schedule. Um, and again, overall, whether it's a self-guided or a program that you join, in those cases, you're not having to structure out what your learning goals should be. You're not having to figure out what are all the things you should be learning to do whatever it is that you're interested in. And that relieves your mind a lot in order to actually focus on learning. But yeah, the self-guided curriculum obviously gives you way more flexibility. But again, that's not necessarily great for everybody. When I was trying to go a self-guided route at one point in time, that was not a good method for me because I realized every time I was supposed to do my studying, I never got it done. And so that was again, that's the reason I ended up opting for finally taking a boot camp, even though I already had experience in programming. So, and I do want to say that even if you already are experienced, there are still different programs that you can join depending on if you are trying to transition into another field, right? There's certain trainings and programs that is actually geared towards experienced software engineers because um, you might like for me, I know that I could possibly look into some programs that are specifically taking people that already have experience in programming and teaching them more about AI and machine learning. So don't count those out if that's something that you feel like you're really interested in. Definitely look into that even as an experienced software engineer. And then freestyling, again, I don't recommend freestyling for a lot of people just because even for me, I make curriculum, I teach and everything, but I still find it to be overwhelming because it's so many things to learn, so many things you can learn, so many tools. And especially if you're new to something, unless you're learning it for a job specifically and you already know exactly what it is you're supposed to be doing, it can be overwhelming to try to create your own learning path. However, I will say that along those lines of freestyling, there are some more strategic ways that you can do it. So, you can gather and plan your own resources, but there is a concept of roadmaps. And if you've never seen a roadmap before, I think those are really, really key. You can Google for, like, for example, you can Google like full stack web developer roadmap for 2023, and you will find different resources online that allows you to do that. Actually, I think one of the websites that um I have liked in the past was, I wanna try to find it. I think it's roadmap.sh. Yeah, roadmap.sh. So, oh, it's getting real fancy. I'll show this one more time for anybody that's watching, of course, also, checking out the replay, but roadmap.sh is a nice option, but there's also roadmaps. Some people have roadmaps on GitHub and things, so you can just search around for some. But and there are a lot of YouTube videos as well. Some of your like favorite creators on YouTube might post roadmaps at the beginning of the year. Usually the beginning or the end of the year, people will post updated roadmaps for specific career paths in tech. So I highly recommend those. So like here on roadmap .sh, you can choose which area you're trying to go into. Right now, they have front end, back end, DevOps, Android, Postgres or PostgreSQL, blockchain, QA, software architect, ASP.NET, Core, Flutter, cybersecurity, UX design, and then they have React Native upcoming. And they also have skill-based roadmaps as well. So if you just want to learn Kubernetes or you want to learn GraphQL, or specific languages, Java, Python, JavaScript, or TypeScript, TypeScript is its own roadmap, right? Even design and architecture or design systems. So those are other options. And then they even have some roadmaps for best practices, including code reviews, API security, front end performance, and AWS. So I think that, roadmap.sh is a great, great resource. But again, they're not the only option that you have. So, I didn't see AI and machine learning here, but I have in the past looked into AI and machine learning roadmaps. So I do recommend that. Um, and I think overall, you can get a lot out of, your experience. Again, if you want to customize things a little bit more, if you're more experienced and you feel like, you don't want to take like a pre-made path, or sometimes I would say if you're already experienced, certain learning resources can be a bit tedious because a lot of resources might start from the beginning and you're like, well, I've been programming for like 6 7 years, 8 years. I don't need you to teach me how to make a variable. That's fine. Something like a roadmap might be better. And then, of course, you also have the ability to, for specific tools, check out their documentation, check out what kind of startup guides they have. And a lot of times, those different resources actually have courses for you. So, for me, for example, right now, I have been I talked about this on our Train Next podcast, but I found huggingface.co, and Hugging Face is a great platform where you can do training on your models, different AI models. You can see a lot of different models, open source models, data sets, and things like that. But they also have courses. So for me, I would say that, I've looked into taking their courses and what it would like what kind of prereqs basically do I need in order to take the courses. So let's see. Learn. If I go to huggingface.co/learn, they have an NLP course, which again, that's me, natural language processing, and they have a deep reinforcement learning or a deep RL course as well. And so for me, this is something that is more, I think, more tailored to where I am in my learning journey. I'm not learning, Python from the ground up. But again, in those cases, a lot of times these types of courses are going to basically come with some set of expectations. You should have some basic knowledge beforehand. So for example, with Hugging Face and their NLP course, it says that it requires a good knowledge of Python. It is better taken after an intro deep learning course. And then they give some examples, so such as Fast AI, Practical Deep Learning for Coders, or one of the programs developed by Deep Learning AI. And then they do tell you they don't expect you to know PyTorch or TensorFlow, but some familiarity will help. So for me, this is something that is kind of on my list, but it also gives me very outlined prerequisites to make sure that I am hitting all the boxes. So, I might take this class, and then but before I take this, I'll take a deep learning AI workshop. Okay. So that's just some different things as you can think about as you are starting out, or if you are, just trying to kind of polish up and sharpen up your skills in any type of area. And so, the last thing I kind of want to circle to now is like, how can we put this all into practice if you want to do something in real time w- with a community, with a small group of people? Um, I have in the past attempted the 100 Days of Code challenge. And for me, it's very fun, but I also did 100 days of live streams as a part of my 100 Days of Code. Um, that was back in 2021. I think I made it to 94 non-consecutive days. However, even though they were non-consecutive, I live streamed every single one of those days. So, you don't have to have like as extreme goals as me when it comes to doing something like 100 days of code, but again, 100 days of code is just a really great opportunity and to sharpen up your skills and to give yourself some type of, like I said, accountability, give yourself some type of plan, give yourself some type of structure. So, every day. So, with 100 days of code, it's like every day you're going to code for an hour a day. And that's like kind of the basics of it. And then you tweet about what you learned every day. So for us with 100 Days of Code, we are, I have a Discord server. We have our own little channel inside of our Discord server where we have a few people that are like, hey, yeah, we're all going to do this together. So if you want to learn or you want to kind of get involved and join our group, as we're going to be starting here soon. Again, today is May 4th. So I think we're planning on starting on Monday. But if you want to join in and jump in, or you just want an accountability group, I always call it accountability buddies, you can definitely join us for that. So however you are however you are getting this, whether you're live on LinkedIn or Twitter, well, not Twitter, but LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch, just message me, reach out to me, or if you're already in the Discord server, just go over to our 100 Days of Code um channel and check in. Let us know that you want to get started with this. And I do have a post that I made on LinkedIn previously. So if you're on LinkedIn, you can comment on this stream, or you can comment on my other post where I was talking about 100 Days of Code. Actually, if you're on LinkedIn and you're already like following me, then you should be able to go back to my post about doing 100 Days of Code, and you can join Discord directly from that post. There's a link in the comments on my 100 Days of Code post where you can just join Discord directly. So get started with us if now is the time. um I am, again, like, just trying to talk about the things that I'm doing and demonstrate them as well, because all of the advice that I give and all of the insight that I try to focus on, especially when it comes to teaching, it's not just about like the hypotheticals. It's like these are the real things that I do in order to grow my career and advance. And the sometimes I might find things that don't work for me. Sometimes I find things that I didn't even know about. And I'm always looking to grow, always looking to learn. But most important to me is that I'm always looking to share the experience as I go along, share the advice as I go along. So I really, really appreciate everyone just being a part of that process, no matter where you are in your journey, and sharing that advice with others as well. So that's gonna wrap up the episode for today. So if you follow my live streams at twitch.tv/metadevgirl, it's coming back, y'all. 100 Days of Code is coming back. So I have not actually been doing daily live streams since 2021. So this is going to be a challenge for me. But again, that's part of my accountability. So I like to make sure that I publicize my goals. Otherwise, a lot of my things end up taking a back seat to other, responsibilities and priorities. So I will be seeing y'all live for 100 days ago, twitch.tv/metadevgirl. And let me know because I'm kind of considering branching out to some coding streams on YouTube, but I just don't really know. Like, do people like that on YouTube? Because like Twitch is a different type of lifestyle, right? So I'm really a Twitch girl for the past I started on Twitch in 2018, I think. So I'm definitely like I understand how that world works, and I am a big person like as far as watching YouTube, but I don't think we have a different culture of coding when it comes to YouTube. So I'm curious if people would want to see those like coding streams on YouTube, or do you just care about more of like maybe these podcasts and like the produced videos, the tutorials and the guides. I don't know. Y'all have to let me know in the comments. But otherwise, I really appreciate everybody for being here. Again, I'm Jessica, also known as Meta Dev Girl. And I will be seeing y'all live pretty soon. And again, if you want to hop in, just let me know and I can get you an invitation to Discord, or go check out my posts on LinkedIn and you can find a Discord invitation there as well. All right, I'll see y'all in the next episode. Good afternoon, good evening, good night. I don't know. It's a recording, so yeah. Bye.